Okay, so if similar like me, you're looking for a new drone and you don't want to deal with all of the legal stuff and you just want to have a flying camera, I think this video might be for you. So in this video, I would like to take a closer look at DJI's smallest and lightest drone currently in their lineup, and that's Mavic Mini. So for me, Mavic Mini is the first drone I ever had contact with, and I saw other people flying drones like DJI Phantom, like DJI Spark, but this is the first one I ever controlled on my own. As the first thing, I was very surprised how easy is it actually to control this drone. And to control the Mavic Mini, you have to use the controller provided by DJI, paired with the app, although after the initial setup, it's possible to control the drone just using the controller. Before I go through all of the stuff that I have here, I would like to go through some of the key highlights of what Mavic Mini is and what Mavic Mini isn't. Of course, the biggest deal about Mavic Mini is the fact that it weighs under 250 grams, and it even says it on the body of the drone that it weighs 249 grams. And in some places like the US and Canada, that's quite a big deal, because if you have a drone that weighs under 250 grams, you're able to fly it without registering the drone, and you're basically able to fly in most of the places that you might want to fly. Here in Germany, it's actually not that big of a deal. There is one rule that says that if you have a drone under 250 grams, you're supposed to have a fireproof label on the drone. But of course, Mavic Mini comes with some other benefits. And first of all, the most important one is the price. And that starts at 400 euro for the basic model, but you can also go for the Fly More combo that I have. With that, you get some additional batteries, you get the case I have here, and also you get this charging hub, which is actually very nice. And I find the charging hub to be one of the best parts of the Fly More combo because it intelligently adjusts charging so that the battery that has the most charge will be charged first, so that you can fly as soon as possible. Also, there is a USB cable so that you can use this charging hub as a power bank for your phone, or for a controller which uses a micro USB cable. Besides that, the Fly More combo also features a propeller guard set so that you can fly indoors, but it's not necessary if you're flying outdoors, and it shouldn't be a problem. And another huge benefit of the Mavic Mini is the fact that it can fly up to 30 minutes on one battery. And that, combined with 3 batteries that come inside a Fly More combo, makes it a really nice device if you're planning on flying a little bit longer. And as for now, I never really run into problems with batteries. I always fly around 20 minutes, maybe a little less, and I'm able to take off 2 or 3 times without needing to change the battery. And I find it to be perfect if you're on vacation. And it's really secure to fly the drone because there's a GPS on board so that it always knows where it is. When it comes to range, DJI actually sells 2 different models depending on the region. So in some regions it can fly only up to 2 kilometers, but here in Europe you can fly up to 4 kilometers. It's very important to have in mind that it's necessary to see the drone. Otherwise you might be violating local laws. And in case you fly too far, the drone is going to automatically go back home, so there is nothing to worry about. When it comes to obstacle avoidance, that's actually one of the minuses of Mavic Mini, because it's so light and so tiny, there was no really space and weight to add here, so that DJI had to cut some corners here. And the only sensors for avoiding obstacles on this drone are only on the bottom. And the drone is using them to know if you're approaching the landing site so that it can slow down and not crash into the ground. So when you fly Mavic Mini, you have to be extra cautious that you don't fly into a tree. And for me, it already happened, but fortunately the drone is still in perfect condition, so I was quite lucky, but you should have that in mind. And last but not least is the camera. And here I was actually very surprised because, first of all, it's not a 4K sensor, it's 2.7, but it doesn't really matter that much if you shoot video mostly in 1080p as I do. And it's actually really nice because you have more room to play with. So for example, it allows you to zoom a little bit into the picture or even downscale it to have a more crispy image. And what's also great about the camera is that compared to DJI Spark, it has 3-axis gimbal. Therefore, the footage is really well stabilized, and that was never an issue for me. Next thing that makes Mavic Mini a bit different from other DJI drones is the fact that you're using a DJI Fly app to control it. And it's a little bit more basic compared to previous apps that DJI offered, but I didn't find it to be that big of a problem, especially for someone who's just getting into flying drones. I must say that I never really had any troubles with the app, and I didn't didn't run into any bigger limitations of it. But I ran into some other limitations when it comes to capabilities of this drone, and most notably is the fact that the drone doesn't allow to take photos in RAW, and that's a bit of a shame because the photos coming out of it are really nice, and I would say that they're more or less the same quality as my iPhone X offers, maybe even a bit better, but I would really like to have an option to shoot in RAW and then get way more out of the sensor. And also when it comes to taking photos, the manual controls are really basic, and besides changing the exposure, besides changing ISO and shutter speeds, there is not much that you can do. And again, when it comes to video, the only real problem is that the drone doesn't support 4K. But when it comes to choosing between frame rate, there's actually quite a few options to choose from. So in 2.7K, we have options for 24, 25 and 30 FPS. And in 1080, you can choose between 24, 25, 30, 48, 50 and 60. I'm just checking on my iPad if I'm getting everything correctly. For me, I think the specs are quite okay. As I said again, it would be nice if the drone supported 4K, but at the same time, for someone who's just getting into flying drones and may not really care that much about the quality, but maybe about more the whole experience of flying, I think that's fine, and 2.7K it's also plenty of room to work with. And also what's really cool about Mavic Mini is that it supports DJI's QuickShots, and that gives you an option to quickly record a droney, which is a selfie with a drone. And there's also a few more options here that allow you to track motion with the drone. And these in my opinion work quite well depending on the conditions. For example, I used the circle motion and I selected the tower, and it worked quite well for most of the time, but sometimes the drone kind of lost track of it and I thought that the shot will not end up that well. But of course it's mostly designed to be tracking people, so have that in mind. So yeah, my overall impressions are very positive, and I must say I really like the drone, especially the fact how small it is and how light it is. And to be honest, I can imagine taking it with me for every vacation from now on, especially with the Fly More combo and the case that it comes with. And if you're planning on buying your first drone, I think this might be a great option for you, because it's not that big of an investment compared to drones such as Mavic Air 2, and at the same time you're still getting a lot out of it. But if you're really concerned about your flying skills, even though this drone is insanely easy to fly, then maybe you should buy a drone that has more of the sensors. And here maybe a good example would be DJI Spark, which is a bit older drone and it records video only in 1080p, but it has way more sensors that allow you to fly more securely. And also if you decide to go for Mavic Mini, I would definitely go for the Fly More combo. I think the addition of 3 batteries is just enough to get it, because one battery is I think €40. And in this set you have first of all 3 of them, second of all you have this really nice case and the charging hub, and I think for me that's really worth the money. If you have any questions about this drone, be sure to leave them in the comments down below. That's it for this video, thank you for watching and see you in the next one.